The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with hundreds of different languages. Tall, blue-skinned Velcrans sat next to armored Thakari warriors. Floating gas beings from the Nethys sector drifted near crystalline rock creatures from distant worlds. In the center of this massive gathering sat one small group that most aliens barely noticed. Ambassador Dongwu Li adjusted his simple black suit as he stood before the council. His voice was calm and steady as he spoke into the translation device. Earth requests equal representation in galactic trade agreements. We have proven ourselves as reliable partners for 50 years since first contact. A deep laugh echoed through the hall. Chancellor Vex Moore of the Velcron Empire rose from his ornate chair. His forearms spread wide as he addressed the council. This primitive species thinks they deserve a voice equal to ours. Look at their pathetic military reports. The main screen lit up with images of human warships. The vessels looked crude compared to the sleek Velcran cruisers or the massive Thakari battleships. Basic plasma cannons, simple metal armor, and outdated shield generators were clearly visible. They barely achieved faster than light travel, Vexmore continued. Their weapons are centuries behind our technology. Their largest ship carries fewer than 1,000 crew members. What threat could they possibly be? Many council members nodded in agreement. The humans had been useful workers in asteroid, mines, and colonial farms, but no one considered them a serious military force. Their ships were slow, their weapons were weak, and they always seemed to avoid fights. Ambassador Li listened to the mocking comments without changing his expression. We ask only for fair treatment in trade negotiations. Fair treatment? General Korth of the Thakari Coalition stepped forward. His red scales gleamed under the chamber lights. You get exactly what your kind deserves. Be grateful we allow you, in our space at all. In the human section, Captain Sojin Choi sat quietly next to 3 other Earth representatives. She wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations or medals. Her dark eyes watched the alien delegates carefully, noting which species laughed loudest and which ones seemed uncertain. Dr. Mi Young Park sat beside her, taking notes on a basic data pad. To any observer, she looked like a junior scientist, recording the meeting for historical records. None of the aliens suspected she was actually Earth's leading expert on xenotechnology, or that her seemingly primitive data pad was analyzing every piece of alien equipment in the room. The vote was quick and predictable. Earth's request for equal trade status was rejected by an overwhelming majority. Only a few smaller species voted in favor, mostly those who had worked closely with humans and found them reliable partners. As the session ended, Ambassador Li gathered his papers slowly. He showed no anger or disappointment, just the tired resignation that aliens expected from defeated humans. We understand the Council's decision. Earth will continue to honor existing agreements. Chancellor Vexmore approached the human delegation as they prepared to leave. Perhaps in another century or two, your species might be ready for greater responsibilities. For now, focus on what you do best, mining asteroids and growing food. Dr. Park looked up at the towering alien leader. We appreciate your guidance, Chancellor. We have much to learn from advanced civilizations like yours. The Velcran leader seemed pleased by her humble response. At least, some of your kind understand their place in the galaxy. After the humans left, the Council turned to other business. Trade routes were discussed, territorial disputes were settled, and military exercises were planned. No one gave Earth another thought. But far from the Council chambers, in the depths of space near Jupiter's moons, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Admiral Tae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of a ship that did not appear in any official Earth registry. The vessel hung hidden in Jupiter's shadow, its hull coated with experimental materials that bent light around it like water. Through the viewing ports, dozens of similar ships could be seen floating in the darkness. How did the Council session go? Admiral Kim asked as Ambassador Li's image appeared on the communication screen. Exactly as we expected, Li replied. They still see us as primitive miners and farmers. Chancellor Vexmore was especially insulting. Captain Choi's voice came over the comm system. The Thakari general was studying our ship designs during the entire meeting. He seemed very confident about something, Dr. Park's image joined the conversation. I recorded detailed scans of their latest weapon systems. Their plasma technology has improved, but they still rely on the same basic principles. More importantly, they have no idea what we've been working on. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. Good. Commander Nam, what's our current fleet status? Commander Wu Jin Nam stepped forward from his position at the tactical station. All ships are ready, Admiral. The new stealth systems are working perfectly. Enemy sensors can't detect us even at close range. And the colony defenses? Colonel Yoon reports all positions are prepared on Kepler 442b. Her people know their roles. Admiral Kim studied the tactical display showing human settlements throughout the galaxy. Each colony appeared lightly defended, with only basic shields and a few patrol ships. It was exactly the image Earth wanted to project. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of the weak, younger species. They accepted insults, took the worst jobs, and never complained when aliens treated them poorly. Every human diplomat, trader, and colonist had been carefully instructed to appear humble and technologically backward. Meanwhile, Earth's best scientists had been studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Dr. Park's team had reverse-engineered Velcran shields, improved Thakari weapons, and discovered new applications that their creators had never imagined. The human military had been rebuilt from the ground up, using hard lessons learned from centuries of warfare on Earth. While aliens focused on individual ship combat and personal glory, humans developed tactics based on coordination, deception, and overwhelming focused firepower. Admiral Kim looked at his officers. Each one had been chosen not for political connections or family status, but for their ability to think quickly and work as part of a larger team. They came from different countries on Earth, but they all shared the same goal: protecting humanity's future in a galaxy that saw them as insects. The Thakari are planning something, Kim said finally. Our intelligence suggests they want to make an example of us to discourage other young species from getting ideas above their station. Commander Nam pulled up a star chart showing Thakari fleet movements. Their battle groups have been repositioning near our outer colonies. It looks like they're choosing a target. Let them, Admiral Kim replied. When they make their move, we'll be ready. It's time the galaxy learned what humans are really capable of. In the depths of space, hidden ships continued their silent patrol. On distant colonies, seemingly helpless defenders made final preparations. And on Earth, factories that appeared to produce simple farming equipment worked around the clock, creating weapons that would soon shock the galaxy. The trap was nearly set. Soon the universe would discover that humanity's greatest strength had always been letting others underestimate them. The attack came 3 days after a human cargo ship allegedly violated Thakari space borders. General Korth claimed the violation was deliberate and demanded immediate punishment to send a message to other inferior species. Kepler 442b was a small, mining colony with only 50,000 human settlers. Its defenses looked pathetic on paper: 2 outdated orbital platforms, a handful of patrol ships, and basic planetary shields that any military academy student could breach. Colonel Hae-won, Yoon stood in the colony's command center watching the approaching Thakari fleet on her screens. 30 heavy cruisers and twice as many fighters were moving toward the planet in perfect formation. It was far more firepower than needed to destroy such a small settlement. They're really trying to make a statement, Lieutenant Jinna Seo observed, from her communications station. This is complete overkill for a border violation. Colonel Yoon nodded calmly. That's exactly what we're counting on. Begin evacuation broadcasts on all frequencies. Make sure every ship in the system can hear how scared we are. The lieutenant began transmitting desperate messages calling for help and reporting that the colony's defenses were failing. Her voice shook with perfectly practiced terror as she described the overwhelming enemy force. Above the planet, Captain So Jin Choi led the colony's small defense squadron in what appeared to be a hopeless battle. Her 12 fighters dodged between the massive Thakari ships, firing their weak plasma cannons at armored hulls that barely showed scorch marks from the impacts. Red Squadron, we're taking heavy casualties, Choi reported over the comm system. Her voice carried across subspace to any ship within range. requesting immediate backup. We can't hold them much longer. On screen, human fighters exploded in brilliant flashes. Debris scattered across space as the small squadron was systematically destroyed by overwhelming firepower. Within an hour, only 3 human ships remained, fleeing toward the edge of the system. The Thakari fleet moved into orbit around Kepler 442b. General Korth watched from his flagship as human evacuation ships launched frantically from the planet's surface. The vessels moved in panicked, disorganized groups, exactly as he expected from an inferior species facing superior military force. "Begin bombardment of military targets," Korth ordered. "Leave the civilian areas intact. We want survivors to spread word of what happens when primitives challenge their betters." Orbital platforms died quickly under concentrated fire from the Thakari battle cruisers. The planet's shields flickered and failed as power stations were destroyed by precise strikes. Desperate evacuation calls filled every communication channel. Colonel Yoon's final transmission was broadcast across the galaxy. "This is Kepler 442b, Colony Command. Our defenses have fallen. We are beginning full evacuation. Any human ships in the area, please assist with refugee transport. We have women and children who need immediate help." The message cut off abruptly as energy beams struck the command center. Video feeds showed the building collapsing in flames while Thakari fighters strafed the surrounding area. On distant worlds, aliens watched the destruction with various reactions. Some felt satisfied that humans had finally learned their place. Others worried about Thakari aggression, but were too afraid to speak against such a powerful military force. Chancellor Vexmore of the Velkron Empire made an official statement praising Thakari, decisive action against those who refuse to respect galactic law and order. Most other major powers remained silent, unwilling to risk Thakari anger over such a minor species. The battle lasted 6 hours from start to finish. When it ended, Kepler 442b's orbital defenses were completely destroyed, its military installations were rubble, and 3/4 of the human population had fled in whatever ships they could find. Thakari forces landed on the planet to secure important mining facilities. They found abandoned equipment, empty buildings, and clear evidence that the humans had left in desperate haste. Personal belongings were scattered everywhere, and valuable mining machinery had been left behind. General Korth recorded a victory message that was broadcast throughout Thakari space. "Let this be a lesson to all inferior species. The Thakari Coalition will not tolerate disrespect or territorial violations. Human military technology proved as pathetic as we expected. Their so-called defenses lasted less than 1 day against properly trained warriors." The footage was shared across the galactic communication network. It showed human ships being destroyed easily, orbital platforms crumbling under fire, and panicked evacuation broadcasts. Military analysts from dozens of species studied the battle and reached the same conclusion. Humans were even weaker than previously thought, but some observers noticed strange details if they looked carefully enough. The human fighters that were destroyed seemed to explode in very specific patterns, creating debris fields that drifted into particular orbital positions. The evacuation ships fled along routes that seemed almost planned rather than panicked. Dr. Myung Park watched every second of footage from her hidden laboratory in the asteroid belt. She noted how each destroyed human ship transmitted a brief signal burst just before exploding. To most observers, these would look like final emergency beacons. Park knew they were actually coded position reports. Admiral Tae-ho Kim received regular updates on the battle from his concealed command ship. The tactical display showed the real situation. Human forces were not being destroyed. They were being repositioned according to a carefully planned schedule. Phase 1 complete, Commander Woo Jin Nam reported. "All units have successfully transitioned to stealth mode. The enemy believes we suffered 90% casualties." Captain Choi's voice came over the secured channel. "My squadron is in position at Rally Point 7. Stealth systems are working perfectly. Enemy sensors show us as debris." Colonel Yoon transmitted from an underground bunker that the Thakari had not discovered. "Surface evacuation complete. All civilians are safely away. Military personnel are standing by in hidden positions." Admiral Kim studied the holographic display showing Thakari fleet positions around the conquered colony. The enemy was celebrating their easy victory exactly as planned. Excellent work, everyone. Begin Phase 2 preparations. Make sure all units understand their roles. Lieutenant SEO continued broadcasting fake distress signals from hidden transmitters throughout the system. Her messages described human refugees fleeing in terror, requesting help from any friendly ships in the area. Each transmission helped sell the illusion that Earth's forces had been completely defeated. The Thakari established occupation forces on Kepler 442b and began sending the remaining human population to labor camps. General Korth was already planning his next target, confident that humans would never dare challenge Thakari authority again. News of the victory spread quickly through Thakari space and beyond. Military commanders across the galaxy updated their intelligence files, noting that human defensive capabilities were even more limited than previous estimates suggested. The trap was set perfectly. Every alien in the galaxy now believed that humans were helpless victims who could be crushed easily by any serious military force. The Thakari were so confident in their superiority that they were already planning follow-up attacks to completely eliminate human presence in their sector. None of them realized that the destroyed human ships were now invisible hunters waiting in the darkness. None of them suspected that the evacuated colony was actually a military base preparing for war, and none of them imagined that Earth's true military power was about to be revealed in the most shocking way possible. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans appeared weak, it was time to be very, very afraid. General Korth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crusher of Worlds, watching the Sol system grow larger on his view screen. Behind him stretched the most powerful Thakari battle fleet ever assembled, 200 warships carrying enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The humans should have learned their lesson at Kepler 442b, he told his officers, but their government continues to protest our actions in the Galactic Council. Time to end this annoyance permanently. The fleet had traveled for 5 days from Thakari space to reach Earth's solar system. Intelligence reports suggested the humans had no significant defenses beyond a few orbital platforms around their homeworld. After seeing how easily Kepler 442b had fallen, Korth expected this campaign to last no more than a few hours. "Sir, we're detecting some unusual readings from the asteroid belt," reported his sensor officer. "Multiple objects that might be ships, but the signatures are very weak." Korth barely glanced at the display. "Probably mining vessels hiding behind rocks. Humans are cowards. They'll surrender as soon as they see our fleet." As the Thakari ships moved deeper into the solar system, they passed several seemingly abandoned mining stations near Jupiter's moons. The facilities showed no power signatures or life signs, just cold metal structures drifting in space. Lieutenant Jinna Seo crouched in a hidden bunker, deep inside one of those abandoned stations. Her communications equipment was connected to sensors throughout the solar system, giving her a perfect view of the approaching enemy fleet. "This is control to all units," she whispered into her headset. "Enemy fleet entering position. Count is 200 ships as expected. Begin final preparations." Throughout the solar system, responses came back on channels that would appear to alien sensors as random background noise. Captain Sojin Choi replied from somewhere in the asteroid belt. "Fighter squadrons ready. All pilots are standing by." Colonel Haewon Yoon transmitted from a concealed base on Mars. "Ground forces prepared. Boarding teams are armed and ready for transport." Commander Woo Jin Nam spoke from his position near Neptune. "All stealth ships report ready. Weapons are charged and targeting systems are locked." The Thakari fleet moved, past Jupiter, then Mars, heading directly toward Earth. General Korth expected to see desperate evacuation ships fleeing the planet, or at least frantic military preparations. Instead, the inner solar system seemed strangely quiet. "Where are their defense fleets?" asked his tactical officer. "Surely they have more ships than what we saw at Kepler 442b. "Probably hiding behind their moon like frightened children," Korth replied. "It doesn't matter. Nothing they have can stand against us." Admiral Tae-ho Kim sat calmly on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's most advanced warship. The massive vessel hung invisible in Earth's shadow, its experimental stealth systems making it completely undetectable to Thakari sensors. "Admiral, all units report ready," Commander Nam announced. "The enemy fleet is moving into the killing zone." Kim studied the tactical display showing Thakari ship positions. The enemy had arranged themselves in a standard attack formation, concentrating their firepower for a decisive strike against Earth's orbital defenses. "They're doing exactly what we predicted," Kim observed. "Begin Operation Silent Symphony. All units execute on my command." The Thakari fleet reached Earth's orbital space and prepared to open fire on the planet's apparently weak defenses. General Korth was about to give the attack order when his sensor officer suddenly looked up, in confusion. "Sir, I'm getting some very strange readings. Multiple new contacts appearing throughout the system. They seem to be decloaking?" Korth spun toward the main display just as the first miracle occurred. The destroyed human ships from Kepler 442b materialized around his fleet like ghosts becoming solid. Captain Choi's squadron, which the Thakari believed had been wiped out days earlier, suddenly appeared directly behind the enemy flagship. "Impossible," Korth breathed. "We watched those ships explode." More contacts appeared on sensors as abandoned mining stations throughout the solar system powered up their hidden weapon systems. What the Thakari had dismissed as empty facilities were actually fortress platforms armed with weapons that made their ship cannons look like toys. General Yuri Kang's voice echoed through space on all communication frequencies. "Attention, Thakari. Fleet, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Korth's tactical officer was staring at his displays in shock. "Sir, we're detecting over 500 human vessels. Where did they all come from?" The answer became clear as more ships decloaked throughout the solar system. Asteroid mining platforms that had appeared cold and dead suddenly lit up with power signatures. Space debris that sensors had ignored revealed itself to be camouflaged warships. Even some of the asteroids themselves split open to reveal hidden military bases. "It's a trap," Korth realized. "They planned this entire thing." Admiral Kim's calm voice reached every ship in both fleets. "You came here expecting to find weak prey. Instead, you found wolves." The Indomitable decloaked directly in front of the Thakari flagship. The human vessel was larger than any warship the aliens had ever seen, its hull covered in weapon systems that didn't appear in any galactic database. Korth tried to maintain control of the situation. "You may have more ships than expected, but Thakari weapons and armor are superior to your primitive technology." "Let's test that theory," Admiral Kim replied. The battle began with a demonstration that shattered everything the galaxy thought it knew about human military capability. The Indomitable's main guns fired kinetic projectiles that punched through Thakari shields like they were made of paper. Enemy armor that should have deflected the impacts crumpled and tore as if hit by asteroid strikes. Captain Choi's fighter squadron attacked with coordination that seemed impossible. Instead of individual pilots trying to prove their courage, the humans moved as a single organism. They used electronic warfare systems to blind enemy sensors, while their weapons found weak points that Thakari designers had never considered. "Our shields are failing," reported Korth's engineering officer. "Their weapons are using some kind of technology we've never encountered." The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Dr. Park's teams had studied Thakari equipment for decades, finding weaknesses that the builders had never imagined. Human weapons were designed specifically to defeat every type of armor and shield used by major galactic powers. Commander Nam coordinated the fleet's movements from his position on the Indomitable's bridge. Every human ship knew exactly where to be and when to fire. While Thakari vessels fought as individual units trying to score personal victories, the humans operated as parts of a larger machine. Colonel Yoon's boarding parties struck with surgical precision, using powered armor that made them nearly invincible in ship-to-ship combat. Her teams captured key Thakari vessels intact while avoiding unnecessary casualties. Major Kyung-Soo Han led the elite Ghost Battalion in the assault on the Thakari flagship itself. His soldiers moved through the enemy ship like shadows, disabling critical systems and capturing important intelligence before the crew could react. Within 2 hours, half the Thakari fleet was either destroyed or captured. The remainder found themselves surrounded by human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere, using weapons that should not have existed. General Korth stood on his damaged bridge, watching his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. How is this possible? Your technology should be centuries behind ours. Admiral Kim's image appeared on the Thakari communication screen. You made the same mistake every bully makes. You assumed that being quiet meant being weak. You thought that avoiding fights meant we couldn't win them. Captain Hyunwoo Jang, commander of one of the human cruisers, added his own observation. We've been studying your tactics and technology for 50 years. We know exactly how you fight and how to beat you. The final phase of the battle was almost anticlimactic. Surrounded and outgunned, the remaining Thakari ships either surrendered or were disabled by precise strikes that left their crews alive, but helpless. When silence finally returned to the Sol system, the results were clear. The most powerful Thakari fleet in history had been completely defeated without the loss of a single human vessel. News of the battle spread across the galaxy at the speed of subspace communication. Species that had dismissed humans as harmless minors suddenly realized they had been terribly, dangerously wrong. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as news reports flooded every communication channel. Video recordings from the Sol system showed impossible images. Thakari warships, the most feared military force in known space, burning like candles in the darkness. On the bridge of the captured Thakari flagship, Admiral Taeho Kim stood before General Korth. The Thakari leader was still alive but looked like a broken warrior who had seen his entire world collapse in a single day. How long have you been planning this? Korth asked quietly. Kim considered the question carefully. Since the day your people first told us we were too weak to matter. Every insult, every dismissive comment, every time you treated humans like servants, we were taking notes. Captain Sojin Choi entered the bridge carrying a datapad filled with intelligence gathered from captured Thakari ships. Admiral, we've downloaded their complete tactical database. Fleet positions, weapon specifications, defense plans for their home systems, everything. Commander Woo Jin Nam was coordinating cleanup operations throughout the solar system. Sir, final casualty report. We lost 0 ships and suffered only minor damage to 3 vessels. Enemy losses. 156 ships destroyed, 44 captured intact, crew casualties approximately 50,000. The numbers were impossible by every standard of galactic warfare. Military engagements between major powers usually resulted in heavy losses on both sides. The idea that one fleet could completely destroy another without suffering significant casualties was beyond current tactical theory. Dr. Mi Young Park materialized on the bridge via holographic display. She was transmitting from her research laboratory where teams of scientists were already studying captured Thakari equipment. Admiral, I've completed initial analysis of their latest technology. It's impressive but follows predictable development patterns. Nothing we can't counter with existing systems. Kim nodded. What about their allies? How long before other powers respond to this defeat? The Velkran Empire has already recalled their fleet from the border sectors. They're clearly scared. Other species are maintaining communication silence, probably trying to figure out what this means for the galactic balance of power. Colonel Haewon Yoon reported from her position commanding the boarding teams. We've secured all captured vessels. Prisoners are being held in comfortable but secure facilities. No mistreatment, as per regulations. This detail was important. Humans could have easily executed their prisoners or tortured them for information. Instead, they followed strict rules about treatment of enemy personnel that most galactic species ignored during warfare. Major Kyung-Soo Han added his report from the intelligence section. We've recovered complete records of Thakari military operations for the past 20 years. They've been planning systematic conquest of minor species throughout this sector. The broader picture was becoming clear. The Thakari hadn't attacked Kepler 442b because of a simple border violation. They had been planning to eliminate human presence in space entirely, starting with isolated colonies and building toward an assault on Earth itself. Lieutenant Jina Seo was monitoring communications throughout the galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving Thousands of messages from other species. Some are congratulating us on our victory. Others are demanding explanations for our hidden military capabilities. Any threats? Kim asked. Several. The Velcran Empire is claiming we violated galactic law by concealing our true military strength. They're calling for sanctions. Kim almost smiled at the irony. They want to punish us for being stronger than they thought. How typically Velcran. Captain Hyunwoo Jang had been studying the tactical recordings of the battle. Admiral, I think we need to address something important. Our victory was so complete that some species might not believe it was real. This was a valid concern. The defeat had been so one-sided that conspiracy theories were already spreading. Some alien observers claimed the battle footage was fake, that humans had somehow used trickery rather than superior military capability. Commander Nam brought up the main display showing galactic communication traffic. Sir, we're seeing massive military mobilization among several major powers. They're clearly preparing for the possibility of human expansion. Admiral Kim studied the data streams. Fleet movements, resource allocations, and diplomatic communications all pointed to the same conclusion. The galaxy was afraid of what humanity might do next. They think we're going to start conquering other systems, Kim realized. They can't imagine that we might just want to be left alone. Dr. Park's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, I'm receiving scientific collaboration requests from over 40 different species. They want to understand our technology. And I'm getting diplomatic messages from governments that wouldn't return my calls last week, added Ambassador Lee from his position on Earth. Everyone wants to negotiate new treaties. The transformation was remarkable. In less than one day, humanity had gone from being dismissed as a minor species to being feared as a potential galactic superpower. The same aliens who had mocked human weakness were now desperately trying to arrange meetings with Earth's leaders. Kim walked to the viewing port and looked out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful Thakari battle fleet. Rescue operations were underway to save survivors from the destroyed ships. Human medical teams were treating wounded Thakari personnel with the same care they would give their own people. Sir, what are your orders regarding the prisoners? Colonel Yoon asked. Standard treatment under galactic conventions. Medical care for the wounded, decent food and quarters for all personnel. We'll arrange prisoner exchanges through neutral parties. General Korth looked surprised. You're not going to execute us as examples. Why would we do that? Kim replied. We're not monsters. You made the mistake of attacking us, but that doesn't mean we'll abandon basic decency. This attitude was confusing to many alien observers who were used to warfare that involved massive civilian casualties and brutal treatment of prisoners. Human military doctrine emphasized achieving objectives with minimum necessary force and maintaining ethical standards even during combat. Captain Choi was reviewing after-action reports from her fighter pilots. Admiral, the electronic warfare systems worked even better than expected. We were able to completely blind their sensors while maintaining perfect coordination among our own forces. The stealth technology was flawless, added Commander Nam. Even when ships were firing their weapons, enemy sensors couldn't maintain target locks. These technological advantages had been crucial to the victory. While aliens had focused on building bigger guns and thicker armor, humans had developed systems that made their opponents fight blind and confused. Major Han reported from the intelligence section. We've discovered something interesting in the captured files. The Thakari have been sharing information about human weaknesses with other major powers. There are detailed plans for partitioning human space among several different empires. The revelation was sobering. Multiple galactic powers had been planning to divide human territory like a prize, assuming that Earth's forces could never resist such overwhelming opposition. They were all working together against us, Kim observed. The Velcrans, the Thakari, probably others we haven't identified yet. Dr. Park's image reappeared on the display. Admiral, I'm analyzing communication intercepts from the battle. Multiple alien governments were monitoring this engagement in real time. They know exactly what our capabilities are now. Good, Kim replied. Let them know what happens when they underestimate humanity. As reports continued coming in from throughout the solar system, one thing became clear. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The species that had been dismissed as primitive miners and farmers had revealed themselves as the most effective military force anyone had ever encountered. The age of human weakness was over. The question now was what would happen next in a galaxy that suddenly realized it had been terribly wrong about Earth's true capabilities. President Sang-Min-Oh sat in the Oval Office watching as alien ambassadors filled every available seat in the room. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Sol, and Earth's quiet presidential office had become the most important diplomatic location in the galaxy. Chancellor Vexmore of the Velcran Empire sat uncomfortably in a chair that had not been designed for his four-armed frame. The same being who had mocked human weakness in the Galactic Council now spoke with careful, measured words. President O, the Velcran Empire wishes to express our deep regret for any misunderstandings that may have occurred regarding Earth's status in galactic affairs. O kept his expression neutral. Misunderstandings, Chancellor? You called us primitive. Insects who should be grateful for whatever scraps you threw us. Perhaps some of my words were poorly chosen. The Empire is prepared to offer Earth full membership in our trade alliance, with complete equal status. Similar offers had been arriving hourly from across the galaxy. The Crystalline Assembly wanted to share mining rights in their sector. The floating cities of Nethys offered exclusive technology exchanges. Even species that humans had never heard of were sending gifts and diplomatic overtures. Ambassador Dongwu Li, who had endured years of insults and dismissive treatment, now found his calendar filled with requests for meetings. Representatives who had once refused to acknowledge his presence were waiting weeks for the chance to speak with him. It's remarkable how quickly attitudes can change, Li observed to President O during a brief break between meetings. 3 weeks ago, these same beings were debating whether humans deserved any representation at all. Dr. Mi-Young Park joined the conversation via secure video link from her laboratory. Behind her, teams of human scientists were working alongside alien researchers who had volunteered to share their knowledge in exchange for access to human technology. The scientific cooperation requests keep increasing, Park reported. 47. Different species want to establish joint research programs. They're particularly interested in our stealth systems and kinetic weapons. Are we sharing that information? O asked. Selected technologies only, and with careful controls. We're learning as much from them as they are from us. The key is maintaining our advantage while building beneficial relationships. Admiral Kim appeared on another screen from his position aboard the Indomitable, which was now permanently stationed in the Sol system, as both a command center and a reminder of human military capability. Mr. President, we're receiving military cooperation requests from over 60 different governments. They want joint training exercises, officer exchange programs, and shared defense agreements. The irony was not lost on anyone. The same species that had dismissed human military capability now desperately wanted access to human tactical knowledge and training methods. Commander Nam provided the military overview. Our intelligence networks report massive changes in galactic power structures. The Thakari coalition has fractured into competing factions. Several client species have declared independence, knowing the Thakari can't enforce their authority anymore. What about the prisoners from the battle? O inquired. Colonel Yoon answered from her position managing the prisoner exchange programs. All wounded personnel have received full medical treatment. We're arranging releases through neutral parties as promised. The Thakari government is being surprisingly cooperative. The treatment of prisoners had created another shock throughout the galaxy. Most species expected conquered enemies to be enslaved, executed, or at minimum held for massive ransom payments. Instead, humans had provided medical care and were returning prisoners without demanding anything in exchange. Captain So-Jin Choi reported from her position leading the expanded fighter training programs. We're getting requests from allied species, wanting to learn our combat coordination techniques. Apparently, the idea of pilots working as a unified team instead of individual heroes is revolutionary to most galactic militaries. This was true across all aspects of human military doctrine. While alien forces emphasized individual courage and personal glory, Humans had developed tactics based on coordinated group action and overwhelming concentrated firepower. Major Han provided intelligence updates. We've confirmed that at least 7 major powers were planning to partition human space before the Battle of Sol. Those plans have been completely abandoned. Several governments are now discussing mutual defense treaties with Earth. President O studied the tactical displays showing galactic political changes. Traditional alliances were shifting as species reassessed their positions based on humanity's demonstrated capabilities. The Galactic Council has requested a special session, Ambassador Lee reported. They want to formally recognize Earth as a major power and offer us permanent seats on all important committees. The same council that voted to deny us basic trade equality 3 weeks ago. O asked. The very same. Chancellor Vexmore personally drafted the resolution. Dr. Park had been monitoring scientific communications throughout the galaxy. The research community is having heated debates about human technological development. Some scientists are claiming we must have had secret contact with advanced civilizations. They can't accept that we developed these capabilities independently. This resistance to acknowledging human innovation was typical of galactic scientific thinking. Most species assumed that technological advancement followed predictable patterns, making it impossible for a primitive civilization to leap ahead through creative solutions. Captain Hyunwoo Jang provided updates from the patrol fleet. We're encountering much different behavior from alien vessels in human space. Ships that used to ignore our communications requests are now asking for permission before entering our systems. The change in attitude was evident everywhere humans operated. Traders who had once cheated human colonists were now offering favorable deals. Pirates who had targeted human cargo ships as easy prey were avoiding human space entirely. Admiral Kim brought up a concerning development. We're detecting military buildups near our border regions. Not threatening deployments, but some species are clearly preparing defenses against possible human expansion. They think we're going to start conquering territory, President O realized. It's understandable from their perspective, Ambassador Lee observed. In their experience, any species that demonstrates superior military power immediately begins expanding aggressively. This assumption created a new challenge for human diplomacy. Earth had no interest in conquering other worlds, but convincing alien governments of peaceful intentions was difficult when they had never encountered a powerful species that didn't seek to dominate others. Dr. Park raised an important point. We need to decide how much of our technology to reveal. We could share innovations that benefit everyone while keeping critical military advantages secret. Medical technology would be a good start, O suggested. We can help other species without compromising our security. Lieutenant SCO provided communication updates from her position monitoring galactic networks. Public opinion is shifting across multiple species. Many civilian populations are expressing admiration for human achievements. There are even groups calling for their governments to adopt human-style diplomatic and military approaches. This grassroots support was unexpected. While government leaders were concerned about human power, ordinary citizens of various species were impressed by humanity's combination of strength and ethical behavior. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Galactic Council. Chancellor Vexmore appeared on screen. His forearms gesturing in what humans had learned was a sign of extreme agitation. President O, we have received disturbing reports about human military preparations. Multiple sources claim you are building additional fleets and establishing hidden bases throughout the galaxy. O exchanged glances with Admiral Kim before responding. Chancellor, Earth's military activities are focused on defense of our existing territory and citizens. We have no aggressive intentions toward any species that respects our sovereignty. But your capabilities, the technology you demonstrated, surely you understand our concerns. Your concerns are noted, O replied calmly. However, Earth will continue to develop whatever capabilities we deem necessary for our security. We've learned the importance of being prepared for unexpected threats. After the communication ended, Admiral Kim observed, "They're terrified that we might do to them what they were planning to do to us." Ambassador Lee nodded. Fear can be a useful diplomatic tool, but we need to balance it with opportunities for cooperation. We want respect, not a galaxy-wide arms race. Dr. Park had been analyzing communication intercepts. The scientific evidence is clear. Multiple species are accelerating their military research programs. They're trying to develop counters to our demonstrated technologies. Let them try, Kim said. They're still thinking in terms of individual technologies rather than integrated systems and tactics. By the time they develop counters to our current capabilities, we'll have moved on to entirely new approaches. President O looked around the room at his advisors and allies. 3 weeks ago, Earth had been dismissed as a minor species barely worth noticing. Now, every major power in the galaxy was scrambling to understand and respond to human capabilities.